Welcome to Live DAF, your online DAF Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's DAF Hayomi, Bava Basra, DAF Nun Gimel. We are holding 6 lines off the top of the Amud V'kama Kol Shehu. In today's DAF, we are going to focus on the kinyan of chazaka, physical acquisition of a piece of property. It can be either due to a sale, a gift. So Reuven transfers this property to Shimon, and Shimon acquires it through physical possession, through chazaka. Or it can be that Shimon just happened to find a piece of property which was ownerless, which was hefker. For instance, a ger passes away. We have nichse hager, his possessions are now ownerless because he has no legal heirs. So anybody can approach the property, the estate, and make a kinyan chazaka on his karka, on his property. So the kinyan chazaka can be due to a sale, a gift, or a hefker acquisition. They're all pretty much, alike, very similar. There are some slight differences between the former and the latter. The case of the transfer of ownership, like the mechira and the matana, versus the nichse hager, as we're going to see in today's daf. But generally speaking, the masa chazaka, the act of physical acquisition, of exerting ownership on this piece of property, is very similar to a case of a mechira, matana, or kinyan from hefker. Now the Gemara today will basically start by referring back to the brisa that we learned yesterday on the Nun Beis Amud Beis. 5 lines off the bottom. No'al godar paratz kol shehu harezu chazaka. If a person makes a no'al, he adds a lock. He installs a lock onto the house, or onto the gate around the property. Godar, he erects a fence to block entry. Paratz, he breaches the fence to make it accessible. All these are expressions of ownership. So even if it's kolshu, it's a slight an effort, as we're going to see in the Gemara exactly what this means. So even a slight no'al godar paratz facilitates chazaka. Asks the Gemara, what do you mean kol shehu? What do you mean v'kama kol shehu? A teeny fence? A small hole? What does kol shehu mean? Answers the Gemara, v'kama kol shehu kedesh Shmuel, as Shmuel explains to us. Damar Shmuel. So Shmuel explained like this. Godar geder vishlima le'asara. Let's say there was already a fence around the property, and he added to the fence. He brought it up till 10 tefachim. Okay? So that's an expression of ownership. Or, uparatz perza, kadeshi yikones v'yetziba. Or he breached a breach in this wall, in this fence, opened it up so that he can get in and out. Harezu chazaka. He has now accomplished chazak. Okay, so even a small addition on that gather is considered chazaka. Even a small pirza, Rashbam explains, there was already a pirza there, but he enlarged it, he enhanced it, and now it's accessible, it's more accessible than before. That is sufficient to constitute chazaka. So that's what the brisa meant. Kol shu. Even if he didn't put up the whole fence, he just added a little. Even if he didn't totally destroy and demolish the enclosure, he just made a small pirza. He widened it. He made it more accessible. Harezu chazaka. Asks the Gemara, Hai gadar hechidami. Right? So when Shmuel speaks about a fellow enhancing a geder being considered chazaka, what did the geder look like beforehand? I mean, what did he do? What did he add to the fence? Are we speaking that initially you couldn't get through the fence? It totally blocked out any intruders, even though we're speaking about a shallow fence. It wasn't even 10 tefachim high, but as the Rashbam says, perhaps due to its position, due to its angle, it was on a slanty location. So basically, the topographical arrangement there achieved total blockage. Okay, so the geder totally accomplished what it was supposed to do. Lo yahavu salkila, we can get through. Initially. Vashta nami lo salkila, and now as well, when he came and he added to the fence, he heightened the fence, it's much the same. You still can't get through, right? So what did he do? My Ovid. Why is that a chazaka? He didn't really enhance anything. He didn't really achieve anything more than before. Ve'ela. Oh, apparently, the mi'ikara havu salkila. Initially, you can just get through the fence. A shallow fence, just jump right over. V'ashta loy salkila. But due to this fellow's addition, now you're blocked out. Now you can't get through. If that's the case, he turned a non-gether into a gether, a non-enclosure into an enclosure. Tuva avad. He did great things. This is a great accomplishment. Why is that called a kolshu? Right? That's not a kolshu. He made the entire enclosure, entire fence. It was totally useless and functionless before, right? Now he made it into a functional fence. Tuva. The answer is like this: Leitzricha must be speaking to be Korah Busakila Baravcha. Initially, you can just hop right over it easily, with ease. Now that he heightened the fence, he lifted it. So yeah, you can still technically get through, but it's a bit more difficult. Right? So initially it was with ease, now it's with difficulty. So he has done something. He has made it more difficult to get through. So even though he didn't totally block out the crowds, I mean, after all, it's only 10 tefachim, but he has accomplished enough. This ma'asa, this act, is sufficient to be considered chazak. And that is goder kol shehu. Now what about pirza kol shehu? Same question. So he breached a bit, made it accessible. In what context? What happened here? Hai pirza echidami. Are we speaking that initially you can get right through because there was a hole in the fence. And today as well, after he enlarged the hole, he added to the pirza. Right? First we spoke about the geder. Now we're speaking about the paratz. Right? There were three expressions of ownership: gadar, paratz, and no'al. Right? And in all cases we say kolshu is enough. So we just explained gadar kolshu. Gadar kolshu. So he added a bit to the fence. That was enough to be considered chazak because he made it, more difficult to access. What about paratz kolshu? Initially, you can just get through that hole, that pre-existing hole, and now as well, you can get through. So my avad, what did this fellow accomplish? It was open and still is open. So apparently initially, you couldn't get through. It was too narrow. The hole was too small. But now that he enlarged that hole, he made a pirza kol shu. Oh, now you can get through. If that's the case, then tuva avad. He did a major thing. He transformed a non-entry into an entry point. That's not kol shu. That's more than kol shu. Like tzricha. Oh, answers the Gemara. Apparently, we're speaking the Mikara Havu Aili Ba B'Doichka initially. Although, you can get through by using this pirza, but it was B'Doichka. It was with difficulty. You can barely squeeze through. V'hashta Aili Ba B'Ravcha. But now that he enlarged it, it's easy to get through. It's more accessible. It's a proper entry. That is sufficient for Chazaka, even though he just really did a bit, a kolshu. But since he made it accessible, that's an exertion of ownership, that's a show of baalus, that's a kinyan chazak. And likewise, in the case of the no'al, Rashbam says, you don't have to do much. Even a no'al kolshu, for instance, suppose there was some opening, and he was seisem, the Pesach stima kolshu. It was an opening, and he blocked the door, but he built it in a little bit. He built up that opening, so he blocked it, so that it's more difficult to get through. That is considered no'al kolshu. Or, says Rashbam, kava manul bedelas. Oh, he installed a lock in the door. But, interesting, the Rashbam says just closing the door and locking it is not enough. He has to actually enhance the property. And he explains, why? Because Well, he says like this: by nichse hager, it doesn't work. If you're acquiring the property from hefker, it doesn't work. It only works when you're sort of renting, you're buying or you're renting from somebody else. So then we say, when the owner hands you the key, that's an expression of it's a transfer of ownership. Okay, but when you're taking from hefker, grabbing the key and locking the door, it's not enough. He says, you know why? Because it's like you're doing a mitzvah to guard your friend's house. There's an expression for it. Mavriach ari. You're chasing away a lion from nichse chavera, from your friend's assets. You're protecting your friend's property. That's not really considered an enhancement. That's not considered a masa chazak. You're not contributing. You're not changing the actual property. So just locking a door is not considered a chazaka if it's nichse hager. The only way it is considered a chazaka is if you actually install a new lock, or you build up, build into the opening. You're sort of blocking the opening to make it difficult to get in. That's called no'al kolshu. Interesting. Okay, so bottom line is like this: a chazaka can be accomplished by one of three ways. We have godar, he erects a fence. We have poratz, he breached the fence, he made it accessible. Or we have no'al. According to Rashbam, it can be either installation of a lock, or blocking up a doorway, or in the case of a sale, handing over of the keys. Now, when the Brisa says kol shehu, what does that mean? Even a drop? Yeah. If he changes the functionality of this whatever this entity, let's say in the case of the godar, it was serving some purpose, but he enhanced it. In the case of the pirza, it was serving some purpose, but he enhanced it. Even though he just added a little bit, a minor contribution is enough to change the equation to be considered a machzik. Amar b'asi, Amar b'yichnan. Nosan tzror. Here come some more examples of chazaka. By just doing a minor act. Nosan tzror. Let's say he's walking by the property and there's a fence around it, and he adds a pebble. He adds a small stone. And so he fills the hole. V'hoyel. And by doing so, he accomplished something. He benefited the property. What exactly did he do? We'll see in a minute. Natal tzroir v'hoyel. Or, in the reverse, he notices a stone on the wall and he pulls it out. By doing so, he makes a hole in the fence. V'hoyel, but it benefited the property somehow. Harei chazaka. So both these are examples of chazaka. Why? Okay, so let's see. In what way is he benefiting the property by adding a stone or pulling out a stone, plugging a hole, making a hole? What does that mean? My nasa or my nata? Ilay manasan tzror v'sachar mayamina. Are we speaking about a case where this fellow sees, he notices a river coming and rushing towards the field, and he notices a hole in the wall which would allow the water to get through, and he plugs that hole. V'sachar means he blocked it from the water. He kept the water out before it reached the field. V'sachar mayamina. So that would be the case of nasan tzror, adding the stone, blocking the hole. Or in the case of natal tzror, va'apik mayamina. We're speaking that the property was now flooded, and by pulling out the stone and making that hole in the wall, he's basically draining. He's allowing the property to drain from its water. So is that what Rabbi Yehuda meant? Are these expressions of chazaka because he's protecting the field, he's enhancing the field? No, says the Gemara, protecting someone's property is not an expression of ownership. You're a good yid, you're a kind-hearted fellow, you're mekayim, maybe a mitzvah of hashavas aveda, right? But it's not an expression of chazaka. Hai mavriach ari minich sechaveru. Oh, it's the same lashon we had a minute ago in the Rashbam. He's just chasing away wild animals from his friend's herd, right? It's very nice. It's a great mitzvah. But a chazaka requires more than that. Rashbam says chazaka is only something which is similar to the examples we had before. Godar, paratz. You have to actually add to the structure. You have to contribute to the sada, to the property. You have to benefit. You have to, right? Even watering the field would be enough, or pruning the field. But you have to do something like that. You can't just, keep the intruders at bay. That's not enough. That's an external act. You have to do something internally with the actual property. Oh, says the Gemara, you're right. So it must be that Nosan Tzuror Tzamad Lamaya, that when he added the stone, what he did was he plugged the hole in the wall, keeping the water which was already present inside the farm, keeping it in the farm. Tzamad Lamaya. Tzamad, says Rashbam, is like Tzamad Puzzle. Already connected. It's a lashon of chibur. He kept the water in, preventing it from draining out. Oh, that's great. That's a great thing. That's like watering the field. Or in the case of Notal Tzuror, the case where he removed the stone, Va'arbach Lamaya. What he was doing was allowing water to get in by enlarging that access point, that entry point. So once again, this is an expression of chazaka because he's involved in watering the field and benefiting the field and developing the field. So he, in fact, has a kinyan. V'amar Rasi, Amar Bich, another halacha regarding kinyan chazaka. So now we're going back to the ger. Okay, so this halacha is specific to a hefker property, which he's trying to be kinyan through chazaka. So you have shtei sades, two properties, two fields. Umeitzar, meitzar is a border, like an elevated, pathway between the fields. Umeitzar echad b'nein. So you have property 1, property 2, and a meitzar in between. Hechsik ba'achas mehen. He approaches property 1 and makes a kinyan. With what in mind? What do you want to do? L'knoisa. His intention was to be kinda just property 1. Kana, that's great. Okay, so he's kinda that property. Rashbam says, for instance, he's digging or whatever, he makes a kinyan on that property. And if, in fact, there would be no meitzar in between the properties, of course, he would get everything, because it's all considered one entity. But here we have a separation. We have a meitzar, two entities. A kinyan on one does not get you the other one. Kana. But let's say liknais oisav es chaverta. When he did the kinyan on property 1, his intention was that this act should get him both, 1 and 2. Doesn't work. Oisa kana, chaverta likana. He gets 1, but not 2. Liknais is chaverta. Oh, well, let's say he made the kinyan on property 1 with the kavana to be kind of property 2. He didn't want property 1. He made the kinyan here to be kind of that one, thinking that it's all connected, and now he's got nothing. Af oisa likana. He doesn't even get property 1. And of course not property 2, which is a totally different entity. Interestingly, the Rashbam has a kasha. He says, what do you mean? We have many Gemaras where we learn that, let's say a person struck a deal with a seller to purchase 10 properties in 10 different locations. As soon as he makes a kinyan on one, chazak on one gets him everything. And the Gemara explains because it's really all connected, it's all part of, connected to the, it's all one earth, right? It's one entity. Whether because they're all connected on the bottom, at the core, whatever it is, it's one entity. Real estate is one thing. So even though they're in 10 different locations, ultimately we treat them as one entity. Taisus asks the same kasha. So why over here do we say you're only going to be kind of that specific property on which you made the kinyan? Why can't he do a kinyan on one and get both? Says the Rashbam, you know what the difference is? Because there we're speaking about a sale. So Reuben committed to sell these 10 properties to Shimon. And he's getting paid for it, whether he got his money or not, doesn't matter. The point is he's being meshabed himself, he's committing himself personally. I'm giving you these 10 properties. Right? As part of the same deal. So there when Shimon makes a kinyan on one, it covers everything. It covers the entire package. You don't need to go ahead and make a separate kinyan on each separate property. You don't need to do that. It's one package. It's part of the same deal between Reuven and Shimon. But here we're speaking about hefker. There's nobody giving it to you. You're taking it off the unknown, right? Here we don't have this point of shibud. There's no commitment. There's no package. There's no deal. There's nothing to bind them together. You see, over there you have that personal commitment that binds it all together. Right? Here you don't have that. Because nobody's giving it to you. You're just taking it from Hefker. And therefore, says the Rashbam, in our case, you need to make a separate kinyan per property. Continues the Gemara, Bar Reb Zera. We have a shayla like this. Okay, he made a kinyan on the property over here. But he had in mind to be kind of this property number 1, plus the meitzar, that boundary which is sort of connecting both properties, because it's right in the middle of both properties. So he wants to be kind of the meitzar as well, ve'es chaverta, and also the property next door. Mao. What would you say in this case? Perhaps it's different than the previous case, where he had no intention of being kind of the meitzar, the border, between the properties. But here he wants the meitzar as well. So shall we say, meitzar da'ara chadhu, that the meitzar, which is really protecting, it's the border which is protecting the property within it, is considered one and the same entity as the property next to it. So if my kinyan on property 1 can also extend to the meitzar, because I want it to be included in my chazakah. Right? So in the previous case, he didn't have in mind to be kind of the meitzar, but he wants the meitzar. So shall we say that the meitzar is one and the same with the properties next to it? And therefore, I'm going to be kind of this property, the meitzar, and the property next door as well, because the meitzar joins them, it binds them. Meitzar da'ara chadhu, v'kani, oidimu orno, hayduchu dekai, v'hayduchu dekai. The meitzar and the field next to it is not really one and the same. They're separate entities. Rashbam says the fact is that physically the meitzar is a bit elevated. It's not on the same grade, not on the same level. It's not one and the same. So even if I should have in mind to be kind of the meitzar, I'm not kind of the meitzar, and certainly not the sada next door. Take it, we leave it unresolved. Bayi Rabbi Elazar. Here comes another interesting shayla. Let's go the other way. The starting point was hichzik b'meitzar. He made a chazakah on the meitzar itself. So let's assume that, Rashbam says, let's assume that regarding the previous question, the answer is no. If you make a chazakah on the sada, you're not kind of the meitzar. Okay? But that's because you realize the field is not committed to the meitzar. It's not serving the meitzar. So you can't make a kinyan on the sada for the meitzar. But suppose he went the other way. Hichzik b'meitzar l'knei shtein ma'u. He made a kinyan on the meitzar. Now the meitzar, explains the Rashbam, is there to serve and to protect and to guard the sada, below it. Because the meitzar is a bit elevated. It's like sort of it's guarding the sada within it. So the meitzar in this case is serving the sada. So perhaps you can make a kinyan on the meitzar and use that as a medium to be kind of the sada. Rashbam compares it to a case where a person will make a kinyan on a afsar, on the reins of an animal. Right? So since the afsar is mishamer the animal, it's serving to guard the animal, to protect it, so you can do that. The afsar is like an extension of the animal. So perhaps here as well. He made a chazak on the meitzar in order to be kind of both fields, one on either side. What is the halacha? Shall we say, Hi meitzar? Oh, Hi meitzar, afsar the arahu. Beautiful. The meitzar is considered like the afsar, like the reins of an animal, so it's like the reins of the property. It's a handle to the property. Afsar darahu v'kani, and therefore you can be kaina by making the kinyan on the meitzar. Oidilma or no. At the end of the day, they're two separate entities. You can't compare it to the afsar, which is sort of tied on the animal. It's one entity. Here, it's a separate, piece. Each entity is separate. The field is separate, and the meitzar is separate. You can't tie them together. Take it, we leave it unresolved. Omar of Nachman, Omar Rabba Baravur. Okay, on this topic of two entities which are perhaps serving each other or only one way serving each other. We have a story of shtei batim. Okay, imagine you have shnei batim, two rooms. The word bayis in the Gemara can either mean a full house or a room. So let's assume they're rooms. Zelefni mizeh. You have two rooms adjacent to each other, and one is inside the other, meaning the inner one needs to access. You need to access. You have to get through the outer one to get to the inner one. Okay, so the inner bias is really, the outer one is really meshubed. It's bound. It's committed to serve the inner one because you can only access the inner one through the outer one. So you have shnei batim zelefni mizeh, two rooms, one within the other, one behind the other. Hichsik b'chitza. So once again, he's trying to make a chazaka, and he does it on the outer one. L'knoisa, in order to be kind of the outer one only. Kanai, that's great. He's kind of the outer one. L'knoisa, oisev es hapnimi. He made a chazaka on the chitzain, and his kavanah was to be kind of the chitzain and the one behind it. It doesn't work. Chitzain kana, pnimi like kana. Okay, he gets the chitzain, but not the pnimi. L'knoisa es hapnimi. It's very similar to the case of the two fields, right? But he makes a kinyan on the chitzain for the pnimi, then he gets nothing. Av chitzain nami like kana. Now let's go the other way. He made a chazaka on the inner one. Hichsek b'pnimi. L'knoisa, in order to be kind of that one. Great, kana, he gets it. L'knois oisev es achitzin, to get the pnimi and the outer one. Oh, now the equation changes. Kana shnein, he gets both. You know why? Because the chitzin is there to serve the pnimi. So when you do the kinyan on the pnimi, you can also extend that kinyan to the chitzin, because in terms of the pnimi, the chitzin is sort of subordinate to the pnimi, so it can come along and be included in the same chazaka. L'knois es achitzin. But suppose he makes a kinyan on a pnimi in order to be kind of only the chitzain. No. If it's done as a package, fine. Right? If it's done as a package with the pnimi, okay, but if it's only for the chitzain, you cannot make a kinyan on a pnimi for the chitzain, because ultimately they're two separate entities. Av pnimi like kana, he doesn't get anything. Not the chitzain and even not the pnimi. Okay, let's just quickly summarize all these various scenarios and all these halachas. So we started with two sadais with a meitzar beineihen. Okay, what happens if he does a chazaka on one of them to be kind of that one? Great, he's kind of that one. To be kind of that one and the neighboring property as well, he's only kind of the first one. He does a kinyan on the first one to be kind of the second one, he gets nothing. What if he has in mind to be kind of the first one, the meitzar, and the one next door? We're not sure how to deal with that. Or if he made a chazak on the meitzar to be kind of both, we're not sure about that halacha as well. Let's move over to the shnei batim, zelefni mizeh. So he makes a chazak on the chitzain, on the outer one, to be kind of the chitzain. Great, he gets that. To be kind of chitzain and pnimi, no, he only gets the chitzain. To be kind of the pnimi, he gets nothing. What if he makes a chazak on the pnimi, to be kind of the pnimi? Okay, he gets it. To be kind of the pnimi and the chitzain, oh, in this case he gets both. But if the chazak on the pnimi was only for the chitzain, he gets nothing. Continues the Gemara. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba bar Avua, here comes an interesting chiddush. Haboyne paltran, gedoylem b'nichsei ager. Okay, this fellow was a big builder. He put up this huge mansion. He built a mansion on the ger's, the hefker property. As soon as he finishes his mansion, comes along another fellow and installs the doors. Guess what? Number two gets the property. Kana. Why? What do you mean? He built the house. How could Shimon take the property? The answer is because he did the kinyan. My time, you know why? Kama. The first fellow who built the house, livni ba'amu da'afech. He was just overturning bricks. It's an expression, meaning he didn't really conclude the kinyan. He lined up his bricks, but he didn't actually close up the property. Right? Rashbam says, well, it was accessible before, it's accessible now, people can just walk through. The kinyan is only the gemar. Right? Noal, godar, right? The person who enclosed it, the person who locked it, he has the property. Amar Avdimi, Bar Yosef, Amar Belazar, Amoitze Palter Mirsa Ager. Okay, a person discovers a mansion sitting on the ger's property. Okay, it's hefker. V'sod behen siyut echad. Now it has doors, it has fences. There's nothing left to be done. So what can he do to be koine? V'sod behen siyut echad. He pulls out his roller, his painter, and he starts his brush, and he starts painting away. Oikir echad, or he does some sort of nice, molding, nice design on the wall. Kanan, that is considered a kinyan because he has contributed to the property. He has added something of value, and therefore it's considered a kinyan. A kinyan chazak. V'kama. How big of an area does he have to paint, or right? Amar Rav Yosef Amma, and there's a girsa Amma al Amma, an Amma square. That's enough. Amar Rav Chizda Kneged Pesach, provided that it's opposite the entry, so you notice it as you come in. Otherwise, if it's elsewhere, it has to be bigger to be more prominent and more noticeable. Interestingly, we have a similar halacha by, when a person paints his house, so you leave an Amma al Amma, right, unpainted, Zecher l'churban, as a remembrance for the destruction of Beis HaMikdash. And there as well, it says Amma al Amma and Keneged Pesach, right near the Pesach, so that it's noticeable as you come in. Okay, one more halacha. Amar of Amram. Hi Milsa. The following halacha, Amar lon Rav Sheshes, was taught us by Rav Sheshes. And he opened our eyes. He showed us the source for this halacha from a brisa. Okay, what is the halacha? Hamatzia matzois b'nichsi hager. So we have nichsi hager, and he spreads out, mattresses, and he lies down, enjoys himself, kana. That too is considered a kinyan, even though he didn't really do any physical changes to the property. But since he's lying there on the property is serving him. That too is considered an expression of chazaka. The Rashbam says, Nir be'enai, it occurred to him that the source for this halach is the pasuk, Ushvu ba'arechem asher tafastem, b'ma tafastem b'yeshiva. This is based on the Gemara Kedushin. V'yirashtem oisa v'yishavtem ba. Right? Sitting there, lying there, that is considered a chazak. Vanarinu, by the way, Tosfos says, Dafka yitzia, Dafka, if he actually brought along his mattress and he set himself up, but if he happened to just walk into the property and lie down on a pre-existing mattress or on the floor, that's not enough. You need a more prominent type of chazaka. He's got to set himself up and show ownership. Vanarinu einin masnisa. Rav Sheshes told us to say halacha, and he explained to us. He showed us a source from a brisa. Mahi, what is that brisa? The Sanya Ketzad b'chazak. So this Mishnah actually is a Mishnah in Maseches Kedushin that we learned, discussing kinyan chazaka on an eved. Just like chazaka works on property, chazaka can be applied to an eved Kanani, a non-Jewish slave. So by exerting ownership, by making use of the eved, but the eved serving his master, that's also considered chazaka, taking possession of the eved, and is a form of kinyan. So following, we have a list of chazaka by an eved, all different types of forms of serving the master. No aloi min aloi, the eved, put his shoes on him, right? He tied his shoes for him, or hitter loy min aloi, or he moved his, or untied his shoes, or he served him by carrying his clothing after him to the, following him with his begadim to the bathhouse. We have shita, he removed his clothing, he washed him, sacha, he anointed him, smeared him with oil, whatever, gardai, he scraped him, he scratched him, helped the master clean himself. This is all about the eved doing to the master. V'hilbishai, or he got him dressed, v'iloi, or he put on his shoes, v'gbiyai, or he lifted him. Kanai, now the master has acquired the eved. Amar Rab Shimon, lo tehig chazaka gdoila mehagba. Chazaka should not be greater than hagba. Well, what does this mean? We'll see in a minute. Shehagba koine b'chal makam. We know that hagba is a kinyan anywhere. So what he means to say is that there are different types of kinyanim by metatlan, by objects, by items. There's meshicha, by pulling the animal, masira, handing over the reins. Something called hagba. Meshicha and masira only work in certain places. They don't work in the like in the street. It has to be in more of a semi-private area. But a ma'aseh hagba, when you lift an item that you're buying, you can do it anywhere. Because basically by lifting it, you're taking it into your possessions, your personal possession. It can happen anywhere, even in the street. So hagba covers all areas. Okay, that was his point. But what do you mean to say, Micah Amar? What's going on here? the Tanakama gave us a full list of different types of forms of service where the Eved is serving his master and the master is kind of the Eved in this way. And then he added the point of Hagba, lifting him, to which Rav Shimon responded with something to do with Chazaka. What's going on? My Kamar, Hochi Kamar. It means like this. The Tanakama, the first opinion in the Mishnah said like this: Higbiyoi l'rabai kanai. If the Eved lifted his master, so it's a form of serving him. He lifted him, he gave him a ride. So the master has now acquired the Eved. That's a form of chazaka. Right? He served him. Rashbam says, for instance, he was helping him get up to his bed, whatever it is. It was being mishamishim. So that's considered a masa chazaka. And by the way, incidentally, the Rashbam says this is the source for our halacha. That a person sets up a mattress, a nechse hager, and lies on it. The property has now served him by lifting him. He has now been lifted off the ground because he's now comfortably lying on a mattress on this not necessarily a mattress. Taisa says dafka mattress because the property is now serving him by allowing him to lie on it comfortably, right? So that's called a chazak, just like by the Eved, right? When the Eved lifts his master, right, that's considered a form of service, right? So that's called a chazaka. So this was Rav Shesh's source. Okay, but in any case, back to our back and forth here between Tanakama and Rav Shimon. So Tanakama says, if the Eved serves his master in this manner, that's called a kinyan. But let's say the master lifts the Eved. So you lift an animal, you kind it. What about lifting a person? A masa hagba, for the sake of a kinyan hagba, is that called a kinyan? Higbiya rabbi, if the rabbi, the future master who's trying to acquire this Eved, lifts the Eved like it would be a possession, an object, an item, it doesn't work. Like it doesn't work because you don't do that to people. That's good for an item, for an object, for an animal. Not good for it. That's not a way to be kind that person. Rashbam says, "In derech lagbiya bnei adam." People typically don't lift each other, right? It's not a way to, right? You don't walk away by holding a person. Rav Shimon responds to that, no. If you agree with me that all these other forms of service, dressing the master, washing him, right? All these are acts of chazaka, and they work to acquire the Eved, how could chazaka be more powerful than hagbah? Than the masa hagbah, where the master would lift the Eved. We know that shehagbah koine v'chol makom. Hagbah is all encompassing, as we explained before. It works even in the street. It's better than the other kinyanim like Mashiach and Mesira. Certainly, it has the power. It can be used to acquire even a person, even an Eved. Okay, but in any case, we found our source for the halacha of the matzia matzois b'nichsei ager. Right, when a person lies down in nichsei ager and he makes himself comfortable, that is considered a kinyan because the karka of the nichsei ager served him, and that's similar to the case with the Eved, who's trying to be acquired by this master, lifted the master in a way that he served him. That's considered a masa chazak. Okay, let's quickly recap today's DAF. We discussed how and when and where to do the acts of chazaka. We have Noal, Godar, Paratz, Kol Shehu, and we'll explain exactly what Kol Shehu means. Even a slight enhancement is enough. We have the halacha of adding a stone to the fence, removing a stone to the fence in a way that serves the property. That is also considered a masa chazaka. We had the case of the two fields next to each other, two houses near each other. How exactly to proceed with the chazaka there. We discussed a fellow who merely added doors to a mansion that somebody built on the nichsei ager. So the door installer has been kaina the property. We had the halacha of matzah paltron. If he discovers a paltron, but he added some enhancements, some features, some painting, that is enough, as long as it's an amal keneged pesach. And finally, about the fellow who lied down, made himself comfortable on nichsei ager, that's also a form of chazaka, and the property is his. All the best to you, and hatzlacha rabbah.